Good evening, I'm Neo. Tonight, we examine a turning point for Europe's car industry, an industry that's long defined the continent's economic strength. Names like Volkswagen, Mercedes-Benz, and Renault face challenges that could reshape Europe's industrial future. Right now, industry leaders and EU officials are in high-stakes talks in Brussels, with jobs and Europe's global standing on the line. We'll break down the 5 biggest issues driving this crisis, from the electric vehicle revolution to fierce new competition. Our goal to give you the real context behind the headlines. Let's dive in. The first challenge, ushering in the electric vehicle transition, is nothing short of a revolution for the auto industry. It's not just about swapping engines for batteries, it's a total reinvention of how cars are made, sold, and even experienced by drivers and families. Legacy automakers must invest billions in new tech, retool factories, and retrain workers, all while competing with nimble, born-electric rivals who are setting the pace and raising the bar for innovation. The cost is staggering and the disruption is real. Factories are overhauled, production slows, and workers face a steep learning curve. For many, it's a leap into the unknown. But even the best EVs need a charging network, and Europe's rollout is lagging, fueling consumer doubts and range anxiety. Without reliable charging, the promise of electric mobility feels out of reach for many. Battery costs remain high, keeping EVs out of reach for many families. The dream of affordable electric cars is still just that, a dream for most. Securing raw materials like lithium and cobalt is a geopolitical headache, with supply chains vulnerable to shocks and ethical concerns. The race for resources is fierce and the stakes are global. Governments are pushing for rapid change like the 2035 ban on new combustion engines, but the industry warns that moving too fast could backfire, risking jobs and stability. Investors want bold EV bets, but short-term profits are uncertain. The pressure to deliver results is intense, and the financial risks are enormous. Premium brands can absorb costs, but mass market makers struggle to deliver affordable EVs. The gap between luxury and everyday drivers is widening. The shift isn't just technical, it's a business model overhaul, forcing automakers to rethink everything from sales to service, and even their relationships with customers. And all this is happening while other crises loom: economic uncertainty, global instability, and shifting consumer priorities. The pressure is relentless, and the margin for error is razor thin. Every decision could make or break a company's future. The future of Europe's car industry hinges on getting this transition right. The world is watching, and the outcome will shape generations. Will they lead the electric revolution, or fall behind in a race that's moving faster every day? The answer depends on more than just technology. It's about vision, leadership, and the courage to embrace change. It's about infrastructure, affordability, and the ability to adapt at breakneck speed. The winners will be those who can bring everyone along for the ride. The stakes couldn't be higher. The choices made now will echo for decades. Next, let's look at the supply chain chaos making things even harder for automakers and consumers alike. The electric shock is just the beginning. The journey ahead is long and the challenges are only getting started. Let's keep going. The second crisis: supply chain chaos. The pandemic shattered the just-in-time system that kept Europe's car factories humming. Production lines that once ran like clockwork ground to a halt. The chip shortage hit hardest. Modern cars need thousands, and when supply dried up, production lines stalled and customers waited months. The ripple effects were felt across the entire industry. Europe's reliance on a handful of Asian chipmakers exposed a dangerous vulnerability. The fragility of this dependency became glaringly obvious. Now the EU is scrambling to build its own chip industry, but that takes years and billions. The road to self-sufficiency is long and fraught with challenges. Raw material prices, steel, aluminum, copper, have soared, squeezing profits or driving up car prices. The cost pressures are immense and unrelenting. The war in Ukraine cut off key parts like wire harnesses, halting German production overnight. The sudden disruption was a stark reminder of geopolitical risks. Even a single missing component can cripple billion-euro operations. The interconnectedness of the supply chain means that one weak link can bring everything to a standstill. Geopolitical tensions and trade wars add more uncertainty, making long-term planning nearly impossible. The landscape is constantly shifting, and companies must stay agile. Automakers are shifting from just-in-time to just-in-case, stockpiling parts and diversifying suppliers, but this adds cost and complexity. The balance between efficiency and resilience is delicate. Shipping delays, port congestion, and a shortage of truck drivers keep the system fragile. The logistics network is under immense strain. Management is stuck firefighting, not innovating. The focus has shifted from growth to survival. The supply chain is now a strategic battleground. Securing parts is as important as designing cars. The stakes have never been higher. For Europe's automakers, globalized production is now a risk, not a strength. The very interconnectedness that once brought efficiency now brings vulnerability. The industry must build resilience fast or risk falling further behind. Adaptation is no longer optional, it's a necessity. The next challenge, a new breed of competition from the East. Asian automakers are rapidly advancing, posing a significant threat. The supply chain crisis isn't over, and it's reshaping the industry's future. The lessons learned now will define the next era of automotive manufacturing. Every delay, every shortage is a threat to survival. The pressure is unrelenting, and the stakes are incredibly high. The pressure to adapt is relentless. The industry is in a race against time. Europe's car makers are learning the hard way. The world has changed. The old ways of doing business are no longer sufficient. The question is, can they change with it? The future of the industry depends on their ability to adapt. Let's look at the next big threat, one that's already at Europe's doorstep. The challenges are far from over. The dragon is at the door. Here's what that means. The next phase of the crisis is about to unfold. The third challenge, China's rapid rise. Chinese brands like BYD and NIO aren't just selling at home, they're storming Europe with advanced, affordable EVs. They control the battery supply chain, giving them a huge cost and security edge. At auto shows, Chinese brands now dominate, launching models tailored for European buyers. Their cars are cheaper, packed with tech, and appeal to cost-conscious consumers. They're not just targeting the budget market. Premium brands are in their sights too. Features like battery swapping and cutting-edge software set them apart. European executives admit they underestimated this threat. The EU is considering tariffs, but that risks a trade war and could hurt European brands reliant on Chinese sales. The old era of European dominance is over. Now it's a global race on price, tech, and speed. Europe's automakers must prove they can still compete, not just on legacy, but on innovation. The competition is fierce and the rules have changed. The dragon is at the door and it's not leaving. Can Europe rise to the challenge? Next, let's talk about the regulatory storm complicating everything. The fourth challenge, relentless regulation from Brussels. For decades, the European Union has shaped the auto industry's every move, but today, the pressure is more intense than ever before. The EU's Fit for 55 package sets a hard 2035 deadline for ending new combustion car sales, forcing a rapid pivot to EVs. This isn't just a suggestion, it's a legal mandate, and it's reshaping the entire industry's future at breakneck speed. Stricter emissions targets and the new Euro 7 standard add even more pressure, requiring costly upgrades to vehicles and factories, even for technology that will soon be obsolete. The cost of compliance is rising and the clock is ticking. Automakers argue these billions would be better spent on affordable EVs, not perfecting dying engines. They say the money could accelerate the transition rather than prolong the inevitable. New rules demand cars be easier to recycle, use more recycled materials, and track battery origins and carbon footprints. Every step of a car's life is now under scrutiny, from raw materials to end-of-life recycling. Compliance is expensive and complex, especially when global rivals face fewer rules at home. European automakers must juggle a mountain of paperwork and digital reporting, while competitors in Asia and the US often operate with lighter oversight. The regulatory burden is so heavy, executives say it stifles innovation and puts Europe at a disadvantage. Instead of focusing on breakthrough technology, companies are bogged down by red tape and uncertainty. Political uncertainty, changing rules, shifting deadlines makes long-term investment risky. Companies hesitate to commit billions when the goalposts keep moving. The industry wants stable, predictable policies and technology neutrality, not one-size-fits-all mandates. They're calling for a level playing field and the freedom to innovate in their own way. The relationship between automakers and regulators is strained. Negotiations are tense and trust is wearing thin as both sides push for their vision of the future. Both want a green, competitive industry, but disagree on how fast and how strict the path should be. The debate is fierce and compromise is elusive. Finding compromise is critical. Too much pressure could break the industry. If the balance tips, jobs, investment, and Europe's industrial future are all at risk. Europe's car makers are caught between ambitious climate goals and harsh economic realities. The stakes have never been higher. The regulatory storm isn't passing anytime soon. For many, it feels like the eye of the storm is still ahead. The next challenge is even more personal: the human cost. Behind every regulation, there are real people whose lives and livelihoods are on the line. Let's talk about the people behind the machines, the workers, engineers, and families who keep Europe's car industry moving forward. The fifth and most personal challenge: jobs and skills. Europe's auto industry supports nearly 14 million jobs, but EVs need fewer workers and different skills. Building electric cars is simpler, threatening hundreds of thousands of traditional jobs, especially in engine and transmission manufacturing. Communities built on these jobs fear mass layoffs and economic decline. Unions warn of a just transition failure. Without support, entire regions could be devastated. The skills gap is huge. Workers must retrain for battery tech, software, and electronics. Companies and governments are investing in reskilling, but the scale is daunting and progress is slow. Attracting new talent is tough. Car companies now compete with tech giants for software engineers. The supply chain is also at risk. Thousands of small suppliers specialized in combustion tech may not survive. The ripple effect could hollow out Europe's industrial base. The old social contract, stable, lifelong jobs for skilled workers, is under threat. Workers face an uncertain future with skills that may soon be obsolete. The human dimension is central to the talks in Brussels. Protecting jobs while embracing new tech is a delicate balance. The green transition must also be a fair transition. The stakes are not just economic, they're social and political. The future of millions hangs in the balance. These 5 crises: EV transition, supply chain chaos, Chinese competition, regulatory pressure, and the human cost, have brought Europe's car industry to a crossroads. The talks in Brussels will shape the future of mobility, jobs, and Europe's place in the world. The choices made now will decide if Europe leads the electric era or falls behind. The stakes are enormous, for workers, consumers, and entire nations. This is more than a story about cars, it's about Europe's future. What do you think? Can Europe's giants adapt, or will new players take the lead? Share your thoughts below. I'm Neo. Thanks for watching.